You're listening to the Sports Brothers podcast by Sam and Brian Dostal. Everything sports, all the time.
The story of my life, I take her home, I drive all night to keep her warm in time. It's frozen.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sports Brothers. I am Sam Dostler, and alongside me is my little bro, Brian Dostler. Today is July 1st, 2014, 9:52 a.m. in the morning. And, I guess apparently you wanted to say you're going to be back in school next month.
I will be. I'm excited. Now it's July, next August.
Woo! Yeah. Woo, yeah. Woo.
Yeah, it means so much to you.
Yeah, it does, anyways. All right, we hope you enjoyed the NBA draft last Thursday as much as we did. Why do we hope you enjoyed it? Because we're going to talk a lot about it today. A lot happened in that NBA draft. Yeah, it's a draft where it seems like a lot of the players are going to be impact players pretty much from when they step on the NBA court next season. Some MLB news and notes, and we're going to talk a little U.S. World Cup soccer. They take on Belgium this afternoon in the knockout round, the quarterfinals. They'll be, I guess not the quarterfinal. Is it the quarterfinal?
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. They'll be taking on Belgium, who I guess is the best goalie in the world. That's what they tell me. But kind of crazy to think about it. Well, whatever. I'll get into the numbers later. And then, of course, we'll end the show with Stump the Bro. We're still tied up at 3-3, right?
We are.
We've had a little bit of a dry spell here for both of us.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my question right now, and I like it.
I like mine too.
All right, good.
All right, so first off, the NBA draft. Obviously, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they elected to use their first overall pick on Kansas' Andrew Wiggins, the freshman out of Lawrence, Kansas. You know, Sam, we said that both of us were thinking Jabari Parker because Parker was going to come in there. You knew he's going to score 15 points, possibly also get 10 rebounds, a double-double guy right out of Duke. But the Cavaliers elect to go with Wiggins, and you really, again, we said Parker, but you can't disagree with this pick.
No, you can't. And Wiggins is a guy who he has a 42-inch vert, I believe. I believe that's what he was measured at. And he's a guy he's a better defender than Jabari Parker. He's a guy who plays both ends of the floor, and he's going to give you that full-out effort every night on the defensive end. And when you find guys like that, you just want to keep them around. Think about Leonard with the Spurs this year, Kawhi Leonard, how much of an impact. Yes, LeBron scored his points, but how much he altered the game with his long arms and defense. And Wiggins could be a better version of that. And something that improves a lot when players get into the NBA is their shooting. Leonard, again, the example. The Spurs brought him as soon as he was drafted. They worked on his jump shot, and it has improved each and every year. So Wiggins has plenty of room for growth. And at the end of the day, I don't think you could go wrong with either Wiggins and Parker. And Wiggins has more of an upside, so I like the Wiggins pick.
Wiggins became the second straight Canadian to be selected as the first overall pick of the
NBA
Canadian
draft. National team.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the only Canadian that went high in this draft. Nick Stauskas, a guy from Canada as well. So the U.S.'s dominance of basketball in North America might be starting to I'm not going to say it's down to nothing yet, but they could be challenged by the neighbors up north in the coming years.
They could. They certainly could. And obviously, Jabari Parker going to Milwaukee, and he'll try to get that franchise back on its feet as they struggled last year going 15-67.
Speaking of Milwaukee, are we going to talk about the Jason Kidd thing
will
now,
be.
or are we going to wait till later?
We'll wait till later.
Or do you want to hit upon it now because we're talking about Milwaukee?
All right. So Jason Kidd, he was traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Milwaukee Bucks as to be the head coach. It's the same position he was with the Nets for 2 draft picks.
2 second round.
2 second round, one 2015, another in 2019. And the reason why he was traded was because Kidd wanted more power. He wanted to be in the basketball of operations department, which would have more power than the general manager, Billy King, of the Brooklyn Nets. King said no to that. And, obviously Kidd, just I think he's been pretty selfish here. He just wants some more power. He wants more say in the organization. I mean, this is a guy that was playing in the NBA 2 seasons ago. The Nets were taking a chance on him.
Well, if you think about it, 12 months ago from now, 12 months ago from today, July 1st, on June 1st of 2013, he was what? A month and a half removed from his playing career?
Yeah, something like that.
He's 14 and a half months removed from his playing career.
And already he's calling all these, thinking he can do all these shots. And I don't think he's with the Bucks now. I don't think he's the basketball operations there either.
I don't know what his full role is with the Milwaukee Bucks, but it's one of those things like, who do you think you are? You were a good player. You're probably going to be a Hall of Fame point guard, and then the Nets rolled the dice on you and made you their head coach, it was something completely unprecedented. You got off to that terrible start. Yeah, you had one of the better records in the NBA after January 1st, and you made the NBA playoffs and you won a first-round series against Toronto, but you have literally, a year of head coaching experience underneath your belt,
Yeah.
and you're walking in there demanding that you be the director of basketball, director of everything, overseeing the whole basketball operations side of things. I applaud the Nets. I'm glad they set their foot down and said, no, we're not doing this. Good for them. And Jason Kidd is just out of his mind. He's someone that I've never been a fan of. He's had legal issues, domestic violence in his past, the DUI a couple years ago. He's just never been someone that I've supported, and I'm glad the Nets kind of
Put their foot down.
And didn't budge on this. I mean, there's a lot of more experienced coaches that don't have full control of the basketball operations and the decisions that the front office makes. And, to go to the Milwaukee side, Larry Drew.
I know.
I mean,
Poor guy.
He gets through, the whole period where he could be fired after the season. It doesn't look, he's not fired, so all indications are that he's going to be back to coach this team next year. They go through the draft. They get a great player, someone who should be a very good player in Jabari Parker. And then, a few days later, he finds out, he comes in and not even told by the organization. He found out through the media what was going on.
Yeah.
And he gets fired because for Jason Kidd. You got to feel for Larry Drew. And personally, I know in the media we're not supposed to have rooting interest, but I'm rooting against Jason Kidd.
Man, you are passionate about that.
I just can't. He just frustrates me to no end.
And you look at Larry Drew. He's coached 4 seasons in the NBA, and he had 3 winning seasons with the Hawks. And obviously, he wasn't expected to, turn the Bucks into necessarily a playoff team last season. But if you gave him, 3-4 years, you got a guy like Jabari Parker. Who knows what would have happened? But all of a sudden, he's gone now. And I think also part of the reason why Kidd wanted more power is also with money, because he was only making $10.4 million in 4 years with his contract with the Nets. Meanwhile, guys, first-year coaches Steve Kerr and Derek Fisher obviously being just like Jason Kidd, playing and then coaching the next year, they're both making $25 million over 5 years. So I think that has something to do with it. But just for Kidd he's a Brooklyn Nets coach. They won 44-38 last year. The 6th seed was really a disappointing season for the Nets. And now he's going to Milwaukee. I mean, just a huge difference. I mean, he had surrounding talent around him, but now, I mean, as a coach, he needs to rebuild Milwaukee.
Yeah, and this is something completely different because in Brooklyn he had established stars.
Team, and now
yes, players that are towards the end of their career, some of them in Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. But he had a guy like Darren Williams, who was an all-star point guard, Joe Johnson, an all-star guy on the wing. You had Brook Lopez when he was healthy. He's a very good player in the NBA. So you had these guys that have made a name for themselves at the NBA level, and now you're going out to Milwaukee, and other than Jabari Parker, you don't have much out there.
No.
I just don't get it. It's I think, like you said, I think you said it was a selfish move before,
Yeah.
and it is. It's extremely selfish.
Some potential replacement candidates for the Nets include Mark Jackson, Lionel Hollins, and Jeff Van Gundy. It's still early in the search, obviously, but whoever goes to the Nets will have this running talent as Kidd did when he got there. All right, back to the NBA draft. The third overall pick by the Philadelphia 76ers surprised both of us, Sam, with Joel Embiid going to Philadelphia. Of course, Embiid, we've mentioned, and many people speculated, not just us, but many people speculated that he would fall in the draft due to his injuries, due to his back injury and his foot injury. But he goes to Philadelphia, and it surprised us because of our Nerlens Noel, who will be coming off an ACL tear. And I even heard that potentially that Embiid could be out for the entire season, this upcoming season, maybe. It's still early, too soon to tell there, but they're taking a gamble on here. The Sixers, they did some good things during this draft, but overall, I was surprised they took Embiid at the third pick.
Yeah, so was I. It was definitely a surprising pick, just because no one's denying the talent that Embiid has. He's a very talented player, and if he's healthy, he should be an effective player in the NBA. He's drawn comparisons to Hakeem Olajuwon already, and this was a guy that Bill Self was going to redshirt. He was strongly considering redshirting before the start of last season, and now he's a top 3 pick. The only reason it's a bit of a surprising pick at number 3 to Philadelphia is that they just went through this last year with Nerlens Noel. We talked about it on last week's podcast when we were previewing the draft. We said, do they really want to go through this again with their fan base? But I guess when you step back, you look at it, either way, with Embiid playing healthy or not, they're not going to be a very good team next year. They're going to be back up in the lottery most likely. So why not take a chance, spin the wheel, round and round we go. Life is good, life is not. Anyways. Why not take a chance, see if you get lightning in a bottle, and if you do, you just run with it.
It's a good point. I mean, obviously he has talent and the shot blocking ability, and who knows, maybe 5 years from now we'll say that was a great pick for the 76ers.
And the strides he made during the year at Kansas.
Oh, he wasn't even talked about first overall going into the year. It was Parker and Wiggins,
and then and he was, and there were other freshmen on that team that were more talked about than him. And just the strides that he made. What impressed me was a lot of big men, when they're first learning the game and they see that their first double team, they have trouble working around the double team. He was so good at taking that one dribble back, giving him some space to see over the double team and making passes out of it. He was a very impressive player when healthy, and obviously, hopefully, he does get healthy so we can see if it was the right pick by Philadelphia.
Aaron Gordon, he went 4 to Orlando and now around with the top 5. Dante Exum, the Australian point guard, goes to Utah, and he'll be teaming in the backcourt with Trey Burke, who is now going to be going to his second year out of Michigan. I believe he was in the top for Rookie of the Year in the Western Conference. But I think this could work out for Utah. They got Gordon Hayward. They have Trey Burke. I think this could fit well for Utah.
It certainly could. Obviously, we've never seen.
Yeah, that's the thing about.
We have never seen
players.
him play a full game or a game of any sort
at all.
So, it's a little interesting in that sense. But the scouts have seen him. Fran Fraschillo was high on him, and he exclusively covered the international guys for the NBA. So guys that know basketball, people that know basketball much better than we do, are very high on this guy, and he looks like a player, right? He's 6'6", long arms, and the one knock on him is his shot. But like I said when we were talking about Wiggins, that's the one thing that you see a lot of guys improve on once they do make it to the NBA is their shot. Because it's one of those things where Dante Exum, Andrew Wiggins, up until really this year, you don't need that jump shot to be effective against most teams. You
just blow by them.
You can just blow by them with your athleticism. So the shot will come around, and I think this is a nice pick.
And now to some trades that happened during the draft. So with 3 big-time trades. We're going to start with Shabazz Napier, which was, of course, was the most talked about. He was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, and all of Connecticut, including myself and you, Sam, we were all Charlotte Hornets fans for about 2 minutes. Could have been teaming up with Kemba Walker, but he was ended up being traded to the Miami Heat for the 26th pick and the 55th pick of the draft, which happened to be P.J. Harrison and uh, Samaj Crimson, who ended up going to Oklahoma City. But so they're on different teams. But Shabazz Napier, it's the guy that LeBron James wanted as the point guard for next season, and he got his guy. Bottom line, Pat Riley went and got him. It was the only pick the Heat had for this draft because they trade those 2 other picks, but they got the guy that LeBron wanted.
And I'll tell you one thing. It would have been nice for Shabazz to end up with Kemba Walker and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, if you're Shabazz Napier and this Miami Heat core, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, stay around and continue the Big Three era, wow, what a place to end up in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in there as a guy. If you're Shabazz Napier, your head has to be spinning a little bit right now because 12 months ago we're sitting here. He's coming back for his senior year. You figure this UConn team, maybe a Sweet 16 team, Shabazz Napier, second-round guy. He's going to get drafted. He's going to get a look, but is he ever going to stick in the NBA? Now, 12 months later, you win the national championship, and you're a guy that LeBron James wanted to
Wants
have
help
around.
immediately.
Wants help immediately, and Shabazz Napier was the guy he wanted to be brought in to help at the point guard position. So if you're Shabazz, you get in there. Once LeBron signs, you text him, whatever, go work out with him, and just start plugging away because you are in a great spot. And Shabazz is a guy, obviously, we've seen this watching him play for UConn for the last 4 years. When there's a big shot, he has the ability to knock it down.
He does.
And with LeBron James on the floor, he's going to get a lot of open looks, not only early in games, but if he's on the floor late in games, obviously you got to see what sort of minutes he's going to get, etc. Once the season starts. But he's a guy who has that winning pedigree and can knock down the big shots. So if LeBron gets double teamed or whatever it may be, Shabazz's man sags off, he will and can knock down those shots.
Yeah, he certainly can. He doesn't obviously with the team he's on, he doesn't need to be the scorer like he was at UConn. But I mean, if he can chip in 10, 12 points,
not even.
Okay, and then a couple assists here and there, some steals. I mean that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a guy that will direct the offense, be the general on the floor, something that they didn't have in the NBA Finals with Chalmers and Norris Cole.
And something to also look at with Shabazz, you mentioned Chalmers and Norris Cole. Napier's more hard-nosed than either of those two guys are. Mm-hmm. He's a strong player mentally. Obviously, going through an NBA season and NBA postseason is different than anything he'll see in college as far as testing the mental strength of him. But he's a guy who doesn't back down. One concern that I do have about Shabazz, and no one's really brought it up, but he was injured quite a bit during his UConn career.
Yeah, he was.
Played through foot injuries at various times. Couldn't play for the 2012 Puerto Rican national team because he had to pull out because of a foot injury. He looked like he was going to make that team, and that's just on a 30 to 40 game college basketball schedule.
Plus.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he holds up. And he was even banged up this year.
Yeah, he was.
He was a guy who was banged up throughout the course of the season.
So another trade, the 76ers, they drafted Elfrid Payton Jr., the point guard from Louisiana Lafayette, but he was quickly shipped to Orlando for Dario Saric, a 2015 second-round pick and a 2017 first-round pick, which actually that pick is from the Dwight Howard trade to Los Angeles. So, but did the Magic, Sam, give up too much for Payton Jr.? I think this is a guy that we haven't seen either, but I think it's too early to tell if this trade is going to work out for the Magic. This is a guy, Payton Jr., that they brought in for a couple workouts. They really love this guy. Payton Jr. said he played the best for the Magic during the workouts of any of the teams. And he's happy he's in Orlando, and the Magic are happy he's in Orlando. And so maybe this could be a good fit.
It could be. I mean, it's one of those you just don't really know, right?
Right now, you don't.
You don't. I was actually talking to you about it. We actually did watch Peyton once when we watched
Yeah, yeah.
the conference championship
But
game.
we didn't. But
We didn't know anything about him at that time. He turned the ball over quite a bit this year for Louisiana Lafayette, but that's also because who
he's the
else
only
was he going
guy.
to give it to? This is definitely one of those trades where it's going to be time will tell.
Yeah, I would agree. And him being a point guard, earlier this morning, Jameer Nelson, he was waived by the Orlando Magic. So it seems like the changing the guard and point guard is changing. They got Victor Oladipo already in Orlando. Now they got Alfred Payton Jr. in Orlando. So Jameer Nelson, but we just meant before we went on today, Sam. Jameer Nelson, he'll find another team.
Yeah, he certainly will. His whole career is spent with the Orlando,
All 10 NBA seasons.
but he's a guy who's in his still young 30s. I think he was 32. He's a guy who's certainly going to land somewhere on his feet, whether it's as a starting guard for a young team so he can be a mentor to the younger guys, or a backup to a team that needs a championship caliber team that needs a point guard. Maybe one place. What if Patty Mills moves on?
Yeah, San Antonio.
Yeah.
And the last big trade, former Creighton standout Doug McDermott was drafted by the Denver Nuggets, was quickly traded to the Chicago Bulls for the 16th and 19th pick of this draft and 2015 second-round draft pick. Anthony Randolph was also sent over from Denver to Chicago. And the 16th pick ended up being Jessup Nurkic and Gary Harris. So they're both on Denver. Did Chicago give up too much for McDermott? It was their only pick of this draft was McDermott. Obviously, he can score the ball. He finished fourth most points in NCAA history. He can stretch the floor. He's a big man. He can score on the post. He can shoot from way outside. Is this a good fit for McDermott in Chicago?
I think it is a good fit for McDermott in Chicago. He's a guy, like you said, he can shoot the ball, move so well without the basketball. At the same time, though, we don't know much about Joseph Nurkic, but Gary Harris, I love Gary Harris.
Mm-hmm.
He plays a similar position to McDermott, plays on the wing, a good shooter, much more athletic than McDermott, can really get to the hoop off the bounce. So I wouldn't have minded seeing Chicago, but at the same time, I guess thinking about it a little bit more, Gary Harris very similar to what Jimmy Butler does for them.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler, the athletic guy that they have playing on the wing. But no, when this all is said and done, I think McDermott's going to be a very good fit for them. He'll fit into that Tom Thibodeau offense, which isn't much of an offense. Well, he'll spread the floor, and by lining up those shooters on the outside, if Derrick Rose is able to come back and be healthy, it'll give Derrick Rose more room to operate when he drives to the paint, which is what he really likes to do.
All right, so that's going to conclude the trades, and now I'm going to give 3 winners of the draft and the one loser who I think really stood out in this draft. Sam, you can pitch in whenever you feel, whenever you want. So my 3 winners.
Oh, thanks.
My 3 winners, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, with the first pick, they chose Andrew Wiggins. I like that pick. Joe Harris out of Virginia. I think he's a guy under the radar. I think he can help Dwight Powell, defensive guy from Stanford. I think, and with Kyrie Irving just signing a max deal earlier this morning with Cleveland, I think they did a very good job of getting the young talent that they needed in the positions that they needed, and maybe, I mean, I don't think LeBron's going to Cleveland, but maybe to lure some free agents to Cleveland. And another team, the Philadelphia 76ers, who, by the way, had the most draft picks in this draft. They had about 8 of them, or 7 or 8 of them. Joel Embiid, of course, Dario Saric, we've mentioned them. KJ McDaniels, the forward from Clemson. Jeremy Grant from Syracuse. They acquired Pierre Jackson. They originally drafted Russ Smith from Louisville, but then they traded him to the Pelicans for Pierre Jackson. And then this is where the names get all messed up. Vasil Mikic from Serbia and forward Namni Dubic from Serbia. So 2 Serbians they picked. But we mentioned, Sam, with Joel Embiid being picked here, that this is for the future. And I think getting young talent like this, I think it's good for the Philadelphia 76ers. And then my last winner is the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Stockpile that talent.
Yeah, that's what you have to do, especially when you're a lottery team every year. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I really, really like what they did in this draft. Not a lot of teams are talking about it.
They took Mitch McGary.
Mitch McGary, I like that pick.
I don't like that. Why?
I like that pick.
They don't need him.
because I think
No, they don't need him.
because I think Collison is on his way out.
Yeah, but Collison wasn't even in the rotation.
He came off when Ibaka was
Yeah,
out.
but no.
I like the Mitch McGarry pick.
I don't think McGarry's going to be that good in the NBA.
Josh Hustis from Stanford. I like that pick. And Samaj Christian. That is going to be an underrated pick, I think. It's a guy that averaged 17 points at Xavier last year.
They wasted the Mitch McGarry pick.
Watch out for Samaj Christian. I'm telling you. Watch out for this guy. All right, so those are my 3 winners. My 1 loser, and I haven't even done research of who people have been saying about this, but the Toronto Raptors. This is a
the
team,
Brazilian
the
Kevin Durant.
This
Bruno Cabalico or whatever.
Yeah, so they picked him and DeAndre Daniels. No offense, obviously we're big DeAndre Daniels fans, but he's a long-term project, and so is Bruno. And
as Fran Francillo said during the draft,
he's 2 years.
He's 2 years away from being 2 years away.
So
this was the most surprising pick in that NBA draft.
He went 20th overall, which it seemed like you could get him earlier or later. Excuse me.
Probably maybe even undrafted.
Yeah, probably. And I mentioned DeAndre Daniels a long-term project for Toronto, a team that was the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference last year. They needed to make I think they needed to make a big splash in this draft. They didn't. And I think they had a big X in this one.
Nothing that will help them continue to move forward.
No, not immediately, and that's what they need because they started winning last year. I believe they went 48 wins, something like that, last year.
I think 48 and 34.
Yeah, something like that. All right, now my favorite pick, my least favorite pick. My least favorite pick, it's the Bruno pick, the Brazilian Kevin Durant, Sam mentioned. Guys like Mitch McGarry, Rodney Hood, Clee Anthony Early, Jordan Adams were all still available at this point in the draft, but they chose Bruno. My favorite pick, Sam, is Clee Anthony Early going to the New York Knicks, second round, 34th overall. I love that pick with Phil Jackson there in New York in the Big Apple. Clee Anthony Early.
With or without Phil Jackson there in the Big Apple.
Yeah. Clee Anthony Early, a senior from Wichita State.
Absolute player.
He, in his last college career game, he had 30 points against Kentucky.
Absolutely carried that Wichita State team against Kentucky and didn't even get a touch on the final possession.
No, which frustrates you. I can tell look in your face.
Well, it's just you got this guy, Clee Anthony Early, who's just been going off. I mean, hitting shots off the dribble, doing whatever. He was doing whatever he wanted on the offensive end and didn't get a touch.
So I like Clee Anthony Early in New York. And now to some other NBA news. Just quickly a little bit. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, they've opted out, as has LeBron James. LeBron James, he wants a maximum contract, which was looking to be around $20.6 million per year. And
if anybody gets it on that team, he's the one who should get it.
He's the one that should get it. But it could be very tough for let's be honest. It could be very tough for Dwayne Wade and for Chris Bosh to stay in Miami if he wants a max deal. How about this? LeBron has never been the highest paid player on any of his teams.
ESPN was talking about that the other night. Very surprising.
I was looking to see who was the highest paid player when he was with the Cavaliers. I did some research. I actually looked for about 10, 15 minutes. Couldn't find it. There wasn't really any clear. The Google search wasn't really understanding my search, but very surprising there. Paul Gasol, he says he's open to returning to the Lakers, but he also wouldn't mind playing for Phil Jackson and the Knicks. So, that's the fun of free agency here. See what happens. The Knicks, they like their chances of re-signing Carmelo, but Carmelo's still going to be meeting with the Bulls, Lakers, Rockets, and Mavericks within the next 2 weeks, which is what we expected.
He deserves that opportunity.
He certainly does. The Raptors and Hawks, they agreed to trade Lou Williams to Toronto and small forward John Salmons to Atlanta. So maybe with Lou Williams going to Toronto means Kyle Lowry might be leaving the Raptors. And we talked about Jason Kidd, and then we mentioned
they do want to re-sign him.
Oh yeah, definitely. I saw they were going to offer him a 4-year contract with the beginning of free agency starting last night at 12:01. And then the Cavaliers, they re-signed All-Star point guard Kyrie Irving to a maximum contract at 5 years and $90 million. All right, now we're going to head to the Diamond. And Clayton Kershaw, he had a June to remember. He was a perfect 6-0 and 6 starts with a 0.82 ERA, and 61 strikeouts. So 44 innings of work.
ERA is not as good as yours, though, Bry.
I know, .44.
Yeah. Different level of competition, though.
Much different, but
You are playing under National League rules, though.
that's true. So,
With the wood bat.
hey, so it's almost the same. So with that .82 ERA, 61 strikeouts, he's thrown 44 innings and only 4 walks, and 2 of them came back in his last start against I forget who.
So
But-
he's struggling right now.
Yeah, with 13 strikeouts in the last start. His June was obviously highlighted by his no-hitter back on June 18th versus the Colorado Rockies. And Kershaw, Sam, he won the NL Cy Young Award last year. He's 9-2 this year with a 2.04 ERA, and it seems like he's even better than last season
And he got off to that little bit of a slow start, right?
for his standards.
He was injured at the start of the year when they went
Okay,
over
yep.
to Australia to play the Diamondbacks, and he pitched in that opening night game, but then he hurt his back on the flight back, and he missed some time, and yeah, he did get off to a bit of a slow start, but he has certainly found his groove now, and I loved that 7-year, $215 million deal that he signed before the season started back in January, and I love it even more right now. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money, but you lock this guy up at 25. You lock this guy up through his prime. He's the first left-handed pitcher to win 2 Cy Youngs before the age of 25. Certainly looks like he's on his way to his 3rd career Cy Young. He has the fastball. He has the big-time hook. He's got all the tools. He's a big-time pitcher. He pitched well in the postseason last year, and this guy, he probably doesn't get talked about as much as he should be because he's out on the West Coast. So a lot of people don't get to watch him pitch, similar to Felix Hernandez up the coast in Seattle, or Tim Lincecum when he was in his prime a couple of years ago. But right now, Kershaw, I think without a doubt, is the best pitcher in baseball.
Oh, I would certainly agree. I've thought that for quite some time, and his next start will be Friday, July 4th, against at Colorado Rockies. So he'll be facing the team he threw no-hitter less than a month ago, and he's helped propel the Dodgers to now first place. They won 1-0 last night against the Cleveland Indians, and they are now a half game.
This is the same time of year as last year
when they won
when
26
they went
games
on
in a
that
row.
run and ran away with the West Division last year. Not going to go on the same sort of run this year, but they've put themselves in a very good position.
How about this? It's not only Kershaw that's pitching well for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have 9 shutouts this season, 5 shutouts since June 3rd, and they have 3 shutouts in their last 5 games, and they're now in sole possession of the NL West, a half-game lead over the Giants. And just some great pitching. Obviously, Josh Beck with a no-hitter. Ryu, he had that perfect game. Greinke, I mean, it's a solid pitching rotation in L.A. for the Dodgers. All right, now another pitcher that's been pitching lights out for the Chicago Cubs. Everyone, Sam, is talking about Jeff Samardzija with the Chicago Cubs and his trade value with the July 31st trade deadline happening this month now. But pay attention to Jake Arrieta. Last night he had a no-hitter going against the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. It was a bottom of the 8th inning, 2 outs. But Stephen Drew, of all people, Sam, Stephen Drew breaks up the no-hitter. The guy that's hitting 125 breaks it up. But Jake Arrieta, he's 4-0 in his last 4 starts with a .92 ERA, 48 strikeouts, and 6 walks. And on the season, 5-1 with a 1.81 ERA. This guy's been pitching very well.
He has, and this is a guy who the Red Sox saw a lot when he was with the Baltimore Orioles. And when he was with Baltimore, he wasn't that effective. He really struggled for a lot of his time with Baltimore. In his last season with Baltimore, which was last year, 2013, before getting traded midway through the season over to Chicago, he was 1-2 with a 7.23 ERA in 5 games. Just looking at his ERA, his numbers in Baltimore, he had a 4.66 ERA in 2010, 5.05. You get the point. His lowest ERA was that 4.661 in his rookie year of 2010. But boy, he's been throwing well. He's got a plus fastball in the upper 90s, cutter that bears in on the hands of the lefties away from the righties. It's just he's very impressive, and the Red Sox, a team that's not as good offensively as they were last year, and it was at the point where if the Red Sox weren't going to win it, you wanted to see history.
Yeah. Obviously, he came up short, and he pitched 6 perfect innings in his last start against the Cincinnati Reds. He had a perfect game going to the 7th inning
So
before it was broken up.
he's locked in right now.
So he is locked in, and I'm not sure if you heard it. I'm not sure if you were in the room at the time, but when we were watching the game last night on the Nesson telecast, Jerry Remy, they were going over all of his strikeouts that Arrieta had, and I mean everything was working. I mean he was painting the corners, a high fastball. He had the slider was working, the changeup was working on the corners.
Well, that's the thing. Early in the game, he was working with his fastball, and I believe it was his cutter. That was through the first 3 innings or so of the game. Then, starting in the 4th inning, he started mixing in the changeup and the curveball. So you see this guy the first time through, and you're like, okay, I've seen what he has. And then the next time through, he's
got different pitches.
He's got different pitches, and you got to figure him out all over again. If you're able to do that, then it makes you so difficult to figure out. And he was pinpoint last night. I mean, he was painting the corners with everything. And if he was missing, it was just missing.
His next start will be Sunday, July 6th at the Washington Nationals. So look for that start for Arrieta. Now, speaking of the Washington Nationals, they got Bryce Harper back from the disabled list yesterday. Harper missed 59 games due to a torn ligament in his left thumb when he slid headfirst into third base. And Harper, he hit 3 home runs during AA Harrisburg Senators game a few nights ago, which shows he's ready. And last night, I believe he got a hit in a Nationals win. But, with the Nationals getting Bryce Harper back, Ryan Zimmerman, he's had shoulder problems, so he was playing left field. Now he looks like he's going back to third base. Finally this Nationals team, which missed the playoffs last year but made the playoffs the year before, starting to get their guys back.
They are. They're slowly starting to put the pieces of the puzzle back together. And Bryce Harper, I don't think he's necessarily lived up to the hype that was surrounding him when he broke into the majors, but still a guy that you want to have in there every day, plays hard. I think something that's very underrated, one of the more underrated moves of the offseason, Doug Fister, coming over from Detroit. He was hurt at the beginning of the year. He's getting himself going in the middle to end of that Washington rotation. So this is a team that has a lot of talent, and they're starting to get the pieces back. I certainly think you're going to hear a lot of Washington National talk during the second half of this season.
And quickly, how about Steven Strasburg? We talked about this the other day. He really hasn't panned out to be the dominant pitcher that, he was sought out to be. Obviously, I mean, he pitched very, very extremely well before he was shut down the year they made the playoffs. But last year, let's see. Last year, he was 8-9, so a sub 500 record. This year he's
What was his ERA though last year?
His ERA was 3.
Yeah.
Was 3. And this year 3.70, 6-6 on the year. And he's a guy that 3.70, that's
a 3 ERA is good, a 3.70 ERA is good, but he hasn't had that season, and he's still a younger guy, but he hasn't had that season where he's gone, 19-6.
No.
He hasn't had those types of years. He's always been around the 500 mark, and no, he hasn't been that shutdown guy. He doesn't go real deep into games. He doesn't get to the 7th inning too often. So I think Washington babied him too much, and
yeah,
I think it stunted his growth a little bit.
Yeah. And now we're going to head over to the World Cup. But first, you are listening to the Sports Brothers podcast with Brian Dostler and Sam Dostler. And we are talking about sports. We do it every Monday, Friday. Today's Tuesday because
we do it early in the week and later in the week,
yeah,
depending on schedules. This week it looks like it's going to be a Tuesday, Friday one, maybe. Might not even have time at the end of the week this week. 4th of July coming up.
Maybe Saturday before we go to the picnic.
Yeah.
I don't know. If we're not back, then you can listen to the Dan Patrick Show. Hey, advertisement for the Dan Patrick Show.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to send a lot of viewers over there.
Yeah. It's a good show, NBC Sports, 9 to 12
Actually,
weekday.
flip that on because he's having Vince Scully on at
That's
some
true.
point.
We have Wimbledon on right now.
And I don't want to miss Vince Scully. So
Would you stop the show if Vince Scully? Ooh, okay. So he's on after this guy.
Yeah, I would stop the show. So how about
Okay.
we speed
Wrap
through the
this up.
soccer because we don't know too much about soccer. The
Let's
U.S.
stop pretending like we know what we're talking about.
So the U.S. they play at 3:30 today. They play Belgium, round of 16, the knockout round. Josie Altidore will play after missing the first 2.5 games. He got injured early with that hamstring injury. Beauty about soccer, you get all the time between games, so he was able to recover. The U.S. advanced despite a 1-0 loss to Germany last week. They went 1-1-1 in group play. They have 4 points. Portugal beat Ghana, so that ensured the U.S. moving through. Can the U.S. beat Belgium? Sure. If they score more goals, they can beat Belgium. That's all I know. I know Belgium has a really good goalie. Some consider him the best goalie in the world. So we'll see what happens then. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Anything else to add?
You said it all, man. You said all we know. So 3:30 ESPN.
So, yeah, stop throwing it in there like we know what we're talking about.
All right. Now it's time for Stump the Bro.
It's time to stump the bro. All right, we got a Red Sox trivia question for you. During the 2000s, what pitcher had the most strikeouts for the Boston Red Sox? Pedro Martinez, Tim Wakefield, Derek Lowe.
I feel like it's a trick question, so it's not going to be Pedro. Or, I hate you. Wakefield was there the longest, so he would be a good candidate. Derek Lowe, Tim Wakefield. Yes. Yes. How many do you know?
I'll look it up.
All right.
No, I won't have during the 2000s. I'll have his career numbers, but
Okay.
I think
whatever.
he started before. Yeah.
The only reason why I went Tim Wakefield because he's there longest.
Yeah.
All right. Now this might be a layup for you. This could be very easy for you. I'm not sure. It was something that I found out when I was looking for this trivia question. What is Ray Allen's real first name? Your 3 choices are William, Ward, or Walter.
I think it's Walter.
Dang it.
Is it?
Yeah, it is Walter.
Did he tip the other day? Did
I
you
don't
ever
know.
ask?
I don't know. I haven't worked since.
Can you ask around?
I will. Ray Allen, by the way, he's a member of the Farmington Country
He's
Club.
not a member.
No?
No.
Oh.
He just golfs.
Oh, he just golfs whenever he wants.
Pretty much. Because he's
Ray
Ray Allen
Allen.
and he never tips, so.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude our show. Sam and we're still tied at
So
3-3.
we're 4-4. At least we got him
Or
right
4-4.
today.
Yeah, we're 4-4. Yeah. Yeah.
I got to do my thing when I get my question right.
Okay. That was cool. All right. I thought you were going to do the outro, but I guess I'll do it. All right. That concludes our show today. You have been listening to the Sports Brothers podcast, and you can listen to our show, our past shows, our archives on our website.
Special thanks to Alex Dostler,
Yes, I was just going to mention that.
our cousin, for answering some questions on Brentwood, Tennessee. Actually, Brian, you have an email from me. He found a little mistake in one of his questions. He wants you to go in and fix it.
All right.
It'll take about 10 seconds.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
So, thank you, Alex. We appreciate that. Hopefully, we'll get some more people for that. Alex, if you ever want to continue that, feel free. It's very easy for us.
I think we're going to try to get Dan Patrick.
Okay, sounds good. You know some people, so
Who?
just do the thing where you lie to people and stuff.
I don't lie to people.
It was a Seinfeld reference. I'm kidding, Sam. He doesn't lie.
Who?
Dan
What?
Patrick.
What Seinfeld?
Never mind. All right.
No. What Seinfeld?
I don't. Jerry says to George, "Do the thing where you lie to everyone." I forget what he's
All
trying
right,
to get.
whatever. See ya.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude our show. Thank you for listening to the Sports Brothers podcast. As I mentioned, you can listen to our shows or past shows off our Twitter page at Sport Brothers or from our website, thesportsbrothersblog.wordpress.com. Feel free to check out that question and answer with Sam and Alex. And until then, we're not sure the next time we'll be on. But until then, have a great 4th of July weekend if we don't hear from you.